When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now time to take a look at the continuing fight against Bill 96. The fight isn't over. In fact, it's just getting started. The president of the Task Force on Linguistic Policy is in studio this morning. Andrew Caddell. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Elias. What a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you in studio. I love, that we're getting back to the sort of normalcy of having people in studio. And obviously, it sounds great, and I get to see your face. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So, and I was on CJAD centuries ago, so this is like coming home, you know?
Yes, that is very true. Huh? It's nice to be in front of a microphone with that CJD 100 logo.
It is indeed.
So, Andrew, let's get into the fray here, okay? On Bill 96. So, obviously, law adopted. It's in play. It's the law of the land here. But the fight is really just beginning. So, why don't you tell our listeners what is the current state of the legal challenge to Bill 96?
Well, we're taking a challenge against 7 aspects of the law that affect people right across the board: businesses, students, permanent residents, recent immigrants, notaries, and people who aren't historic Anglophones. And we're doing that because this is basically a frontal assault on the law. It's not a piecemeal approach. It's a huge task, but we've got one of the best law firms in the country representing us.
And what's
the Bergman Law Firm?
Okay.
And they're brilliant. And, this is something that affects human rights. By making French predominant, it reorders all of the laws in Quebec so that human rights are subordinate to French. It's blatantly unconstitutional, and that's why it's wrapped in the notwithstanding clause. But there are other ways of dealing with it through other laws. And as well, you have to sort of wonder, if the notwithstanding clause is going to be used preemptively in this way, what's the point of having a charter anyway? Because it'll become like the Diefenbaker Bill of Rights, which there was only one case that actually supported it.
So let me ask you this, right? When it comes to that, right, we got the notwithstanding clause in place. It was used preemptively here. You mentioned you've got, the law firm. You got a great law firm behind you. That sounds expensive. So where are you getting the funds to fight this battle?
Well, I published an op-ed in the Gazette about 2-3 weeks ago. We've received several $1,000s at this point. We've already got about half a dozen plaintiffs that have applied. We need more plaintiffs. We need more money, obviously, because this is an expensive proposition. And it could go, if you look at the Blakey case in 1977, it went 2-3 years to the Supreme Court. It could take as long as that. So we're budgeting for a couple of $100,000. And, if the convoy can raise $24 million for something that was, blatantly illegal, then at the very least, supporting human rights, people should come forward. So just get a little pitch: info@protectourrights or info@protegernosdroits.ca.
That's an email address.
.ca. That's our email address.
Gotcha.
That's our and our website. You can look us up on online.
If I do a search for
protectourrights.ca, it's our
protectourrights.ca for people that want to help you fund this challenge, because that will be an important part here. So you just said you're still looking for plaintiffs, right? In this case, for the battle?
The more the merrier, because we've got 7 sort of cases that have been outlined. But if we have 10 people for each case, then it becomes that much more powerful.
What would make someone a great plaintiff for your cause? Like, what kind of story? Because they're going to be. Let's reach out to our listeners right now. They may be facing it. What kind of story would you be looking for to help you make your case?
Somebody who's been here for 50 years, whose mother tongue is Polish, let's say, and has always spoken English, went to Baron Bing, used English in their daily life. They call up the Quebec government in 6 months, and they say, sorry, we can't serve you in English because your mother tongue is Polish, therefore we have to switch to French. Gotcha. That could actually happen. Or somebody who's just a recent immigrant from the Philippines who speaks Tagalog and English.
Yes.
And in 6 months, they say, well, sorry, we've got your file here. How do they know? I mean, we've got your file, and you don't qualify to be served in English.
So we've got a Quebec government that has preemptively used the notwithstanding clause for Bill 96. And to me, if you're going to have a fight here, you're also going to need some help. And when I think about, well, who should be helping here? Top of mind to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, is the federal government, right? I feel they've been kind of sort of AWOL on this issue. And on top of it all, when it comes to how Quebec is trying to change, the Constitution of Canada unilaterally when it comes to Bill 96 and things like that, and use the notwithstanding clause, on top of all of this, we have a government, right, and the new official languages minister, Ginette Petitpas-Taylor, they're planning or moving forward on this Bill C-13 for official languages. And I look at that proposed bill, and I look that they've been mum's the word on 96 and the using of the notwithstanding clause, and I say, maybe we're in trouble here if we can't get the support from the federal government. What's your take on how the feds are handling official languages?
Well, I have to tell you, first of all, I was actually actively involved when I worked at Queen's Park with Bill 8, which is the French Language Services Act in Ontario.
Uh-huh.
So I have always been a proponent of French language rights right across the country. I really fear that the asymmetry in Bill C-13 is going to cause a backlash across the country against Francophone minorities, and it will not be the intended support of Francophone minorities, which is going to happen. Instead, there'll be a backlash from the population in places like New Brunswick, where there are right-wing parties and have been for a long time, like Saskatchewan, where you can go to court in French, maybe even in Manitoba, BC. It could cause serious detrimental effects to national unity, and that's not the intent, I know, but because there's an asymmetry which has never existed before.
Tell our listeners, when we say asymmetry,
yes,
what does that mean?
It means that Francophone minorities in the rest of the country will have favoritism in terms of jobs, in terms of starting businesses, in terms of the way they're dealt with by the government. In Quebec, it has always been that the Anglophone minority, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who don't speak French in the rural area who are elderly immigrants, people that for no fault of their own don't speak French. So those people normally would have opportunities to work in federally chartered companies in English. Well, that wouldn't be the case because they're going to apply the charter, and not Bill 101, but Bill 96.
They're going to apply Bill 96 to
federally chartered companies.
In Quebec?
In Quebec, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's number one. Number two, it means that you might not be able to get the services you want if you live in Gaspé or if you live in Stansted or if you live in Pontiac. And that's a denial of individual rights.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you won't get all the incentives and the extra funding for businesses or for whatever you want to start. Now, I think I'm all for doing that for Francophone minorities, but why not do that for us as well?
Yes. I mean,
it just makes sense, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, but the minister doesn't seem to think that.
And for the notion that Canada is a bilingual country.
Exactly, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, Are you in communication with the Minister of Official Languages? Like, are you having conversations with the people in Ottawa? Like, how are you getting that message across? Because it seems like they're headed full steam ahead.
Well, we submitted a brief, which was brilliant. It was put together by three very good constitutional scholars. And it was submitted about a month and a half ago, and I received a note from the committee saying, "Oh, we're going to post your brief. It was very good, but sorry, you can't speak to us. We won't let you present." Well, the other day, like the 25th of October, Impératif Français, which is that group that takes delight in persecuting Anglophones.
They do mock train rides down in Montreal, in downtown.
They got a whole afternoon to chat with the committee.
You're kidding me.
And they told us they didn't have enough time for us. Well, and the committee is loaded. I mean, it makes the Bill 96 hearings look like, like the Declaration of Independence or major discussions.
Well, Andrew,
it's so loaded.
So I mean, this to me, it's outrageous.
It is outrageous.
That to me is outrageous.
It is.
So as we see Ottawa go down this pathway, let me just ask you this to wrap up here because we have limited time.
Sure.
From the provincial government front, right? We have seen some changes in faces and bodies and key roles, right? Simon Jolin Barrette, no longer Minister of the French language, right?
Yep.
And we've got Éric Girard as Minister responsible for Anglos.
Yep.
To you, those changes, Does that present to you an olive branch and maybe a discussion that needs to be had with the Quebec government right now?
Well, they could be cosmetic. I was glad to hear Eric Girard say there were 1 million Anglophones because the line has always been 600,000. It's actually 1.25 according to Stats Canada. But, he's not going to have any more additional staff. He's not going to be given any more role. And as finance minister, he's going to be bloody busy. So I'm really not sure. But both he and Pierre Fitzgibbon have to know that these changes are going to have a huge impact on businesses here, especially businesses at the international level who use various languages, including English.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming in.
A tremendous pleasure.
Giving us an update here. The website again for
is protegernosdroits.ca or protectourrights.ca.
Protectourrights.ca. That's Andrew Caddell from the Task Force on Linguistic Policy, the president, in fact. Thanks so much, Andrew.